hang on, is this the only episode of modern era Doctor Who to have snow in it but not be a Christmas episode? Thin Ice! And we continue as we get through Series 10 of Doctor Who, and we get our first past set episode, which is fitting. We had a few random jaunts around the universe in the pilot, and then in the second episode, we got to go on another world, and also a little bit into the future, and now here, we're back on Earth, but it's the past. And I like this a lot more than I like a fair number of the past set episodes, mainly because it's missing the one thing that usually drives me the most crazy about the past set episodes, which is there is no celebrity historical figure. There's a historical event, the Frost Fair, but there's no Dickens, there's no Queen Victoria, there's no Winston Churchill, none of that. And not to say that every single time that's happened in a historical set episode, it hasn't worked for me, but I am going to say that most of the things that annoy me about historical set episodes have a tendency to tie back in to that sort of thing. So thankfully, with that not being present, this, for the most part, works for me pretty well. First of all, I like that it's an accidental trip. I feel like I'm not going to go back and check for certain the last time this happened, but I feel like at this point in the series, it had been a while since the Doctor had done the right place, wrong time, landing the TARDIS sort of thing. And, I mean, especially with the 12th Doctor, it really seemed like he had a bit more of a handle on landing exactly where he wanted to. And it's kind of nice to have a little reminder that, no, not always. Also, Bill continues her trend of asking these interesting questions that are the kinds of things that, fans, but also like people who just think differently than most of the companions the Doctor has had up to this point will ask. Things like the butterfly effect, which I really like the way that gets brushed off.
Every choice I make in this moment, here and now, could change the whole future.
Exactly like every other day of your life. The only thing to do is to stop worrying about it.
I love that, because from his perspective, there's no difference. It's true of her life as well, but he has the perspective of a time traveler to just know that. It's called existing. Just roll with it. So I dug that. And the setting is a lot of fun. It's nice to see Bill in that outfit. And the Doctor with the top hat, yeah, that kind of works for me. I'm glad that wasn't like a permanent addition. Oh, I actually have a top hat. I should have worn it. I am too lazy to start this video over and go get it. I'm sorry. But in any case, the thing that we get here, again, sort of, we've been running into this thing lately that I feel where elements of episodes seem like they're remixes of either earlier ideas or earlier features that were seen in the show. And honestly, by Series 10, I'm kind of okay with that. If you can give me something that feels wholly original, yes, please do. But if you can't, revisiting elements or themes or ideas that have been done before, but just finding a way to present them in a new fashion, yeah, that works for me, especially in more episodic, self-contained kind of episodes, which ultimately, setting aside the Mystery Box series arcs, most Doctor Who episodes are. The show has never really gone fully serialized in the modern era. So we have this thing under the ground and is being used for fuel, basically. It is a new riff on kind of the core concept of what was going on in The Beast Below. But again, between it being set on Earth, the motivation behind it being completely different and purely selfish, as opposed to we thought this was the only way the human race could survive, it's different enough that even though I can recognize that as a similar core element, the story built around it is not the same. And I'm good with that. Although I did like that the Doctor said, well, let's try and get eaten by it. And my immediate thought was, yeah, like you do in The Beast Below. Yeah, of course you would think that would work. It worked last time. There's another bit that I really like from Bill. I like Bill observing
Regency England. A bit more black than they show in the movies.
So was Jesus. History's a whitewash.
You may choose to label that as a political statement, but it's also true. Like, the simple fact is that we have a tendency to depict the past with only whoever was the people in power being the ones who are shown, unless there's a specific story-driven reason to do it. So you get something set in Victorian England, you don't see people from Asia. You don't see black-skinned people. You don't see this diversity. You just see a whole bunch of white people as if these other people weren't even there. But they were. And they just generally don't get depicted, and they certainly weren't getting written about at the time. So that's just a nice, and like this isn't supposition on my part. There is work and research on the demographics of what the population was actually like, especially in a city like London, with a huge commerce city. Of course, it had higher diversity than you usually see in shows. So I like that it didn't hammer on that, but I also like that it was acknowledged. Again, like little things are getting brought up and pointed out through Bill, and it's just one more reason that I really do enjoy Bill. Another thing. She has, I would say, an impressively shaken response to a child getting killed. Which, first off, the show killed a kid. Okay. Like, I don't remember the last time that happened. School reunion? Maybe? And actually, it bugged me when it happened in School Reunion because it was part of the cold open, and as a result, it felt very callous. Here, thanks largely to Bill's reaction of being just stunned by this, and her first reaction is to turn to the doctor and say, "Save him." And to the doctor, this is not a new situation. He's just going, "I can't. It's too late. I can't." Bill does not want to accept that. And then she doesn't have like a proper sobbing breakdown, but she runs and she goes in a corner. She's trying to process the fact that she just watched somebody die. And the doctor does point out, "You were in a garden full of dead bodies before." Like, yes, but I didn't watch it happen. They were already dead when I got there. And for a human experience, there is a difference. That matters. And I like that the show put the emphasis on what that kind of experience would be for somebody who, especially somebody who really stumbled into this and didn't come in going, "Yeah, let's have an adventure." I mean, let's remember her first adventure with the doctor. Yes, Heather died, but again, she didn't see that happening. And it all happened so fast that really, and she kind of did get a chance to say goodbye, so she was able to process that. And then in Smile, she wasn't there when it happened, so she's coming in almost like an archaeologist. So to really properly emphasize, yeah, people die when they're with the doctor. And I like that she doesn't just leave it at that. Like, ultimately, the doctor saying, "I move on," is something that she brings on board, because she kind of comes to the realization of, if I'm going to help at all, I need to move forward, and that is going to involve a certain amount of moving on from this thing that happened that I can't change. But I like that she doesn't let him wuss out. She gets right in his face. "Have you ever killed anyone?" And he tries to dodge it. He tries to give the kinds of answers that previous doctors either would have or in some cases did try to give.
There are situations when the options available are limited.
No, I asked.
Sometimes the choices available.
That's not what I asked.
She pins him down and will not let him back off this point until he gives a yes or no answer. And I don't think this is just about Bill asking the question. I think the fact that the doctor, though he was reluctant to do it, does just say yes and is willing to say that. Not comfortable saying it, but willing to say it. Because you look back even at Tennant, when he had his conversation with Wilf in The End of Time Part 2, and I love that conversation on the ship. It's gold. But even there, where he is chastising himself for the mistakes he has made and the things he has done, even then he's saying, "I've let people die," or convince them into doing something that would get themselves killed. He'll admit to that, but he still won't say the words, "I have killed people." It's a big thing for him to admit to this. And again, it just leads into the growth that I've gotten to see from the 12th Doctor over his time in the role. It's really good. Okay, so let's get to the villain and some of the commentary that's going on with this. Here's the thing. I was going to say this is a bit of a social commentary season. That's a little bit true, but also that's a little bit misleading because it implies that social commentary hasn't been a part of Doctor Who since literally the 1960s and its very first story. So that's disingenuous to imply, and I'm not intending to do that. But what I will say is that social commentary is a running theme that is being revisited across the series in a way that it hasn't really been up to this point. Now, Doctor Who, separate from the mystery box story arcs that it tends to do, often has running themes going through it. Whether it be things like just being too casual around danger, which is kind of what we got going on in series 2, the toxicity and the sort of recursive feeding each other's worst impulses that we got going on between Clara and the Doctor in series 9. That was your running theme from episode to episode. So those sorts of things are usually there. This is the first time that I can think of off the top of my head where the social commentary isn't a one-off in an episode here, an episode there, but that's kind of a part of the recurring thing. And we get it. We got it a little bit, honestly, in Smile with the whole thing about having to accept and acknowledge the robots as being their own species and having to come to terms with that. And here we have Sutcliffe. We have our villain who is just a capitalist bastard. That is just what he is. It's not a case of he doesn't realize the damage that is being done by the thing that makes him money. He's fully aware. He just doesn't care. And I'm sorry if you think that's villainizing of capitalism as a system, but that is what capitalism tends to breed. Are all capitalists and all people who run businesses in a capitalist society like this? No, but people who are willing to behave like this will be financially rewarded for the things they do, as he has been. And also, I really love that the Doctor basically preps Bill to just sit there and take whatever this guy's going to dish out in terms of racism, because he knows, like, okay, this is going to go badly. And he has this line that he says to Bill.
Always remember, Bill, passion fights, but reason wins.
And that, you know what, I'm not necessarily going to argue that that's incorrect, but I love that he himself undercuts that by decking Sutcliffe as soon as the guy makes it clear exactly how much contempt, open contempt he has for the fact that there is a black person even in his presence, and that person has not subjugated themselves to him. And the Doctor just belts him. Because, you know what? I can go with the general philosophy that passion fights and reason wins, but you know what? If reason's not going to get you there, sometimes you got to throw a punch. And I love that the Doctor did that. And I love that contrast, because it's not hypocrisy. It's not a contradiction, the fact that he said that but still landed a punch. That is stating your intended philosophical stance and then having a moment where we're like, well, that's not going to work, is it? Boom. So I love that. That worked really well. I like that the way that the Doctor kind of pulls Bill back into the movie, because Bill is kind of wavering kind of around the climax, like, what do we do? Do we save this thing under the ice? What do we do now? And the Doctor says, I serve at the pleasure of the human species. Now, I don't know if that's an exact repeat, but it's a repeat of the sentiment from Kill the Moon. So you might think I'd be like, oh, for God's sake, because it annoyed me when he did that in Kill the Moon. It doesn't annoy me here because the reason he says this, at least my reading on it, my headcanon on it, is not so much him deferring responsibility to Bill, but trying to pull her back into the situation. This is his hook in so that she just doesn't detach and is just like, I can't, and sort of tunes out. It's like, no, I need you here. I need you here now. And I'm going to make you be here now by forcing you to make this decision by saying, I serve at the pleasure of the human race. Now, is that the intended reading? I don't know. It's my reading. I like it. So overall, this is a pretty good, solid, well put together episode. Definitely for the historical ones, which again, I have a tendency not to be as big a fan of. But this one works pretty dang well, especially as it builds the relationship between Bill and the Doctor. I really do love their dynamic. It's probably my second favorite modern era Doctor Who pairing, right behind Tennant and Donna. But seriously, this is a great pairing. These two work wonderfully off each other, and getting more of that does a bit to elevate what would otherwise be a good, maybe not great episode, but, you know, with that added in and feeling like it's developing all of that, it just boosts it up a little bit more. I do really like this one. Oh, one other thing. I do feel like I get that this was probably unintended, but a thought occurred to me at the very end where there's the knocking from the vault, which, you know, the pace at which they parse out information about the vault. Actually, truth be told, I need to do a bigger discussion on the Mystery Box series arcs at some point and how they do or don't work for me and which ones work better. I actually like that the vault is something that we learn one new thing about it pretty much every single time it's shown. The fact that someone knocks from the inside means that, oh, it's something live in there. It's not just holding a resource, information. No, it's a person. And like maybe you could have sussed that out, but that's your confirmation. But what I was trying to get at before I went on a tangent, was that it is a little bit irritating that it ends with the knocks from the vault, and the next episode's called Knock Knock, and it has nothing to do with any of that. That feels like a bit of a mislead, although it's probably accidental because given that what the next episode is, and the knock on wood puns, and that it's in a house where knocking is part of the scares or whatever, probably didn't mean that to happen, but it does make me go, oh, for God's sake. So that's Thin Ice. Have you rewatched it lately? What'd you think about it? Whatever your thoughts are, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. I feel like I went more rapid fire today than usual. I am high energy today. I don't know why. What are your thoughts about that, I suppose? Also, I have a Patreon, which is what enables me to eat and keeps this entire channel up and running. If you're able to support me in any amount, that is greatly appreciated, and there are perks to doing so. But even if you can't, like, share, subscribe, they all help me out. The algorithm is not being kind to my Doctor Who content of late. And I know part of that is new episodes aren't currently airing, but it didn't used to be this bad even in the off season. So any help is appreciated, but you also don't have to, because at the end of the day, you are the council. I am only running the meetings. And until next time, this council is adjourned.